Hello, everyone, and welcome back to NCOIL One-on-One. With us here today is California Assembly Member Tim Grayson, Chair of the California Assembly Committee on Banking and Finance, and Vice Chair of the NCOIL Financial Services and Multi-Lines Issues Committee. Assemblymember Grayson, thank you so much for taking the time.
It's my pleasure to be here with you.
So, let's hop right in. Can you tell us how you first got involved in public service?
I was always involved in the community in some way, shape, or form. And serving as the chaplain for the Concord Police Department, I was able to have be exposed or have exposure to a lot of the different needs that were in our community, as well as being a construction company owner, seeing the needs of people from that perspective as well, and how that the local government interacted with constituency. So with that, it was the motivation to be able to step up and run for a city council seat.
So, yeah, you served in local government, and then now you serve at the state level. How do you think it differs, those different avenues of serving?
Speed and volume. So on the local government side, serving as a council member, vice mayor, and mayor, you go through your daily and weekly responsibilities. Pass a handful of ordinances a year. On the assembly side, it's in the state of California, it's maybe a few thousand laws that you have to review each year. A little different than a handful of ordinances on the local side, and it's lightning fast here compared to local government.
Fair enough. So, what issues have you been most involved in during your time in the legislature?
Oh my goodness! Obviously, working closely with public safety in the local arena, public safety has always been important to me, and making sure we have safe communities, safe parks, neighborhoods, and schools. So, along with that, housing has been right there at the very, very top, along with the ancillary or issues that go with housing. In many cases, insurance would be a part of that, and so affordability, and being able to develop in a way where people can live, work, and play all in a reasonable same place or same area. But again, housing would probably be right there at the top.
It sounds like you have a full plate in California, but you've been involved in NCOIL the past few years. Can you tell us how you first heard about the organization?
One of your past chairs, Ken Cooley. I, yes, I served on insurance committee with Ken Cooley, and he's the one that kind of said, "Hey, here's some model. This isn't just a piece of policy that came out of nowhere. This is a model policy that came from NCOIL." And I asked him, "Well, what's NCOIL?" And he said, "Glad you asked. You're coming with me." And so he brought me to to NCOIL, a conference that I found myself incredibly intrigued with, for many, many different reasons: policy, networking, both from a legislative perspective as well as from an industry perspective, which I think is something that NCOIL is gifted with.
That's great. So, how would you describe your overall experience, being involved in the organization over the past few years?
Well, I would rate it, one being the worst, 10 being the best, 100, because NCOIL has really been able to provide that space for stakeholders to be able to come together where common ground can be found. It's a deeper understanding of complex issues, where NCOIL brings everybody to the table, where you're not just hearing one siloed opinion or perspective, but you're really getting a 360 engagement of whatever NCOIL takes an issue and turns it into an experience. And so, in terms of insurance policy development partnership, it's an incredible, valuable experience for any legislator to be a part of.
That is fantastic to hear. Are there any issues you would like to see the organization take on this year and the year ahead?
Absolutely, affordability of insurance that has been profoundly impacted from wildfires and climate change, and technology, AI and technology, and how that is impacting the insurance industry, and how it comes together with communities and people moving forward. So another thing that's very, very important, I think that NCOIL should have high interest in, is financial services, along with how that intersects with technology itself, and how the two evolve into actually requiring not just suggesting new policy, but requiring new policy to keep up with the emerging technologies like blockchain, AI, fintech, all those things that insurance industry touches.
There's certainly no shortage of issues touching the insurance industry these days. So.
No, not really.
So you described how you first got involved with Assemblyman Cooley, kind of bringing you in. Do you have any advice for legislators all across the country who maybe haven't heard of NCOIL or are looking to get involved? Um,
Yeah, it's one thing to be at a conference. It's another thing to be in the conference. And many times the temptation is to just go and be an outlier or be at the peripheral. My advice is if you're going to invest your time and resource to be somewhere like NCOIL, then dive in, go all in, go to the meetings, go to the committees, but then not just sit there, but engage. And don't be afraid to ask questions. And then by asking those questions, the answers create the environment and the platform to be able to have discussion and conversation. Building relationships with other legislators from other jurisdictions or other states, and being able to meet with stakeholders at the same time is just an incredible and valuable experience. It's a great thing.
Great to hear. So you chair the Assembly Banking and Finance Committee, which, of course, is related to insurance in many areas, I'm sure, but it's not directly an insurance committee. Do you see any crossovers in the issues you deal with in that committee and the ones discussed at NCOIL?
Absolutely. Both of them really focus on regulatory frameworks, both focus on consumer protections and truly the impact of financial services. So the insights and the policies developed at NCOIL, really they often inform and enhance the work that we do on a state level as the two, both banking, finance, and insurance, are interwoven and brought together to create a common fabric that touches every member in the community.
Really interesting. Do you see any partisanship having an impact on insurance related issues, as we've seen with other issues and other legislative bodies around?
Partisanship leaves no one untouched behind. So it touches everybody and everything at all times. And so at NCOIL, I believe the focus on practical solutions and diverse representation of states, it really helps to mitigate that partisanship. And it's really when we can get past the partisanship and actually talk about issues that I think those that are partisan, when they bring those perspectives with them, and that we put the partisanship aside and bring those perspectives that come from partisanship, it creates a holistic conversation where we can actually come up with the best practice or the best policy.
Great. Do you have a favorite model law or policy NCOIL's adopted or has been working on throughout the years?
Well, NCOIL is just everything you do is touched with perfection. I'm kidding, of course. What I do think, though, is that I've always been a strong advocate for transparency, for accountability, and I find that it's the Insurance Underwriting Transparency Model Act was significant. The reason why I think it was significant is it aimed at personal auto and homeowners insurance consumers where there was a need for clear and useful information about any material changes made to their policy. And I think that was incredibly impactful, as simple as it may have seemed or sounded to your normal average consumer that's out there, that that those fees or bills or the underwriting and the insurance for autos and homeowners, any change, it does impact those people. And so I think it's what I think it had a bigger impact than what people may have considered or thought at the very beginning.
Interesting. Were you guys able to get that adopted in California? Have you guys done a lot of work kind of in that front?
Absolutely. We were able to move that forward and really solidify some really, it was one of those kind of things that no matter how you, back to the partisanship issue, no matter how it was, everybody had constituents that were being touched or impacted by changes on non-renewals or cancellations or premium insurances, reductions in coverage. So no matter who you were or where you came from or what community, literally every single legislator was being touched by a constituent that was impacted by that. So again, like I said, this really moved the needle a whole lot more than what I think people give it credit for.
That's great. So naturally, we've discussed some of the positive things about NCOIL, but there's of course always things we can improve on. How would you like to see the organization kind of change or advance in the coming years?
You know what, I would suggest outreach and engagement, broadening your outreach efforts to include a wide range of not just stakeholders but legislators. And sometimes we kind of just get used to we get used to who's on the roll, and it's always being active because we have, I know in California, term limits, so there should always be that succession plan and always looking for who else can be added into the picture and into the conversation. So for me, NCOIL has always done such an excellent job on so many areas, so many aspects and areas, that the only suggestion I would have is just really getting out there and making your outreach efforts grand.
That's great to know. Thank you. So before we let you go, we have a quick lightning round of questions just to help the audience get to know you a little bit better. Can you
Great.
tell us your favorite all-time movie?
Where the red fern grows.
Nice. Favorite all-time food?
Oh, that would be a prime ribeye steak.
I would have to agree with you on that one. Book or author?
uh, can I go here? I think I can. David, the Book of Psalms.
Sounds good. Favorite all-time song or musical artist?
Is there anybody better than Elton John?
Good point. Favorite all-time TV show?
Emergency 51. Did I just age myself?
And then last but not least, three dinner party guests, living or dead.
Okay, here we go. Let's do Abraham Lincoln, JFK, and Obama.
All great
President Obama.
answers.
Yeah.
All right, well, this wraps up this month's NCOIL one-on-one interview with California Assembly Member Tim Grayson. Assembly Member Grayson, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you so much.